Can I ask a question of the audience?
If there's any questions out here
Yeah.
too, make sure you kind of like grab my attention. We'll get it flowing, and you guys can ask questions.
Like, I'm really dying to know, like, what do you guys want to hear about? Like, what do you want to hear about how this applies to business? You know, how broadcasters can use things like Twitter, how they have used them. You know, there's some good examples. What's kind of, don't all jump up at once or anything, but, you know, yeah.
Just speaking from a very small broadcaster point of view, one of the challenges we have is, you know, we might have a broadcast product, and we want to go to someone, because we don't have that expertise, to say, what would be the best vehicles to do this on a very low budget, you know, that we can manage, because really most of our money has gone into licensing the project, and it's a real challenge to market it. We could never afford traditional paid media. So to us, these tools offer the promise of doing something that we could never achieve before, but actually evaluating the tools with someone who has some credibility. How do we cut through the clutter and find the right people?
Well, I think something important with that is the matter, like the creativity that comes from this. So you got to find creative ways to use these tools. And if you're on a low budget, then that really comes out. So if you're talking about broadcasting, are you talking about like a drama or scripted entertainment? What is it?
Primarily what we do is factual entertainment, documentaries.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is engage audiences that might like that kind of content, you know, to learn, to gain knowledge, to gain wisdom, and get them attracted to watching the show or going to our website to engage with the additional content.
Right, so for something like that, I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do there, of course. It's just a matter of what you're trying to do. So if you're looking to increase viewership, are you trying to drive these people back to the television? Or are you trying to get them to conversate about things online? There's tools for you for sure.
And if I can just make a suggestion too, I mean, you know, you can do that yourself. You don't necessarily need to go to a social media group or or Invoke, no offense, but you know, if you have a very small budget, these are things you can do on your own. There are tools that are out there, like, I mean, as simple as Google Alerts, you know, Google blog search, you know, Samai's Twitter search. Most platforms, with the exception of Facebook, have a pretty robust search function, and many of them are indexed by Google. So all you need to do is go out and find out who's talking about the stuff that's like the stuff that you're doing, or talking about the stuff that you are doing, and really listen. Just spend some good time listening and figuring out what it is they're interested in and whether or not what you have would resonate with them. And then you can start to build community with them. If you're participating on those platforms, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I thought you might be interested. You can bring value, which I think is what you were getting at earlier, Chris, around giving more than you take.
Sure.
That's sort of a fundamental principle. If you bring value to the relationship, to the conversation,
yeah, and I think
you
the
got
other
it
thing, just speak to the extent that you have programming and it has video, if there's I'll call snippets or pieces of the content that you think you're prepared to put out there. To come back to an earlier point, it's not just about, you know, YouTube. Obviously, you can use that to build buzz and be able to tap in and listen to what's going on. But don't forget about a significant kind of second tier of, like, take video sites, for example, Dailymotion, Bebo, Hulu. There's a whole bunch, and to the extent that you go back to, you know, depending on the concept, the documentary, the program, whatever, looking at your demographics, your target market, take a step back and beyond the three that we're talking about mostly for all the right reasons, but think about what your demographic is and go out there and look and see which ones you might be able to use more effectively to target, because there's lots more out there.
Maggie, do you think it's important to have people who do this in-house? Like, do you think it's important to hire someone internally to build this capacity inside, or is it good enough to hire external folks, or should the filmmaker and directors be doing it themselves, or like, what's the best? Who should be doing this?
well, you know, that's a really good question. And I mean, essentially what we're talking about, no matter what platform we're talking about building community, right? You're talking about engaging with people who care about your stuff and, you know, providing them with opportunities to engage with your stuff. And then, you know, listening to them and rinse and repeat. So it's interesting because what we're starting to see emerging is this community manager role inside the organization. And the interesting thing about that is that the place that it ends up being is very different depending on the organization and depending on the people, because you have to be a social person to do this. Social media, engaging online, is not for everybody. It's for chatty people who like to make friends, who are quick-witted and articulate, and really get a buzz out of it, really get a buzz out of talking and engaging and relating to other people. So that person can be almost anywhere in your org. And when they emerge, you need to find a way to make part of their job this. and give them the tools, give them the resources, give them the time, and then relentlessly communicate that success. Like, this is working, and so it deserves more resources. I
Yeah.
kind of went on a little
No, that's great.
long rant there, but hopefully I answered
We got
your
a
question.
we got a pile of questions coming in. So
Great.
first one's over here.
So what you just said, it's not for everyone when you're looking for someone within the organization. It's getting really hyped up, social media these days, and everyone's sort of feeling they need to have a social media strategy. I know, Maggie, you've been doing this for years, but now there's all these people kind of coming out of the woodwork as experts and pushing this kind of stuff. What I'm curious from all three of you is, what are some situations where maybe Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn aren't the right way to go? Because I think that you can all agree that it can be a really great and powerful tool, but there's also times when people are just kind of forcing it in there, and it's not maybe necessarily the right thing to do. So maybe, a little story about this client who came where you leave the client's name out or something fun like that would be lovely.
Do you have an example?
I just say that it's critical to just realize the goals of the campaign, right? So maybe Facebook doesn't make sense. Just putting up a Facebook page for like some hotel or something like that is not going to work. But if you're engaging a community based in that geographic area or something, for instance, I'm just using this as an example. You can have guests interacting, or you can provide them with, say, incentives or promotions based in the neighborhood. Get them some reason to join this group. Now, even that's a bit of a stretch, but
Well,
it's better than just sort of, if you build it, they will come. Just throwing it up there because they need a presence on Facebook. You got to be there. That's just garbage.
Back to the point of kind of give more than you take. I'm right over here. Hey.
Okay.
Back to the point of giving more than you take. I think a lot of people who fire up these accounts and then just use them as a way to broadcast their message, like they would with paid advertising, are the ones that we see failing.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that hot dog stand in Vancouver, the Japa Dog, right? And these people have built a 100-person line between 12 and 1:30 at their hot dog stand every day. And it's not by talking about the specials they offer on their hot dogs, but it's about talking about Japanese cuisine, fast food, things that foodies like, food provenance, all sorts of interesting things around the topic. So in your case of the hotel, if you're doing more than just broadcasting your specials or broadcasting, the details of your hotel, but if you're actually engaging in a conversation around tourism in the area, or you're talking about fun things to do in a certain place, and you're building a voice as an expert of a community, I think that you'll see some success.
Yeah, provide some value.